Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Strength Agenda Radio. I am one half of your hosting party, Tom Soroka. This is my short and stout and fun-sized friend next to me, John Ziegler. John, how you doing, bud?
I'm good, man. How are you? I like being called fun size. That's it. It's way better than being referred to as, you know, shorter.
We in college, our track coach used to refer to people as like the different size candy bars. Uh,
Did
because
it?
like 'cause for those who know, like those old boathouse uniforms that they used to use for like high school, like with the jackets, uh,
Yep.
like the rain jackets, they came in three sizes, like gigantic, normal, and like who the hell is wearing this really tiny one?
Right.
He was just like fun size, regular size, king size. Like that was his how he depicted the humans on the team, and that's how he would refer
Right.
to people and stuff. And so I just most people to me are fun size.
You know what's funny, man, is so my son Eli recently got married,
Yeah.
and Rachel and I went out to Oregon. It was a beautiful, amazing wedding, right? So somebody took a picture of my dad, myself, and my son all standing together. It's my fucking favorite picture. But you know how they say each generation gets a little taller, each generation gets, so that's not true for my family. We're fucking shrinking. My
Yeah.
dad's like 5'10", I'm 5'8", and my son Eli comes in, I think, right around 5'7". So we're just like the picture is like bump, bump, bump.
Yeah.
We're just all my before you know it, man, like the men in my family are just gonna be like 5'5" at best.
I mean, I think I've showed you the picture of me and my brothers, right? Every time I tell people that, like, people don't believe me when I say I'm the runt of the litter in my family.
Which is crazy because if nobody's ever met you in real life,
Yeah.
first of all, if you're watching this, right, and you see Tom and you think he's a big boy, you are 100% correct.
I'm a decent sized boy. Yeah.
You are a decent sized boy. And when you showed me the picture of you and your brothers, I was just like, what the fuck?
Like Kara, when she went back with me to meet my family and stuff like that, she went and met Will, my baby brother, because he moved in with my mom, and stuff like that when my dad
Mm.
was sick. And like people laugh when Will and I talk because I look up at Will, like literally, like he's like 6'5", 6'6",
Yeah.
and constantly like, and then he'll mouth off, and I'll be like I'm doing the whole pointing up at him and stuff like that. Like it's just and it just makes me feel like I'm back in like the strongman days because like
Yeah.
everybody in just sport, a strongman is gigantic, Highland Games, stuff like that. Weightlifting is like the only sport where I ever felt like a giant compared to
Yeah, it's like
everybody else.
it's all guys and women who predominantly are a little bit shorter because, shorter levers, man. Like,
Even my mom, like we used to joke around, like for family photos, I'd have to go stand in the front of my family photos with like all the women and my aunts because like my mom's like 5'10". I have
yeah.
an I have an aunt that's 6 foot. I have another aunt that's like five, I think she's like 5'6", 5'7", something around there.
Okay. No.
All my male cousins are like 6'2", 6'3", something like that.
Dude,
So, and then I have a
speaking
couple
of like
female. Yeah,
male
so
cousins.
yeah, so when we do like the family photo, it's like my uncles, my cousins, my brothers, my dad, like they're in the back with my grandpa, and it's like me, my grandma, my two aunts, my one cousin, and my mom are in the front. I'm like, awesome, cool. You guys can kiss my butt.
So on my mom's side of the family, I think I'm probably the tallest male.
Oh my
At,
God. There's
at five, like 5'8". Like I'm the tallest.
a bunch of Oompa
If
Loompas running around.
I did, hey man, they're like I think my uncle who and I remember like looking up to him when I was a little kid, but now like I see him, I think he's like
Well, it's like the
five,
first,
6.
well, it's the same, like it's like first time I heard Rachel swear in the gym. I started like laughing at her, and she got even more mad. And I was like, "You're so adorable when you're upset." She's like, "It's not funny," and I'm like,
Oh, it's hilarious.
I was like, "It's so good. It's so good."
And she's got that resting Rachel face. This is
Yes.
what we refer to it as, where it's very serious. And because she's got her headphones in and she can't hear you when you talk to her, people at the gym when she's there training and I'm getting ready to coach think she hates them. And
Yeah.
they'll come up to me and I'll be like, dude, is she okay? I'm like, she just got her headphones in and that's resting Rachel face. I'm like, she's not mad at you.
Straight up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that's just how she is. This is how it is at home too. I
Yeah,
walk her coaching.
coaching wise, a long time ago, I stopped focusing, like, or I stopped trying to read people's faces. Like,
Hmm.
I go in the back for a meet and they're in the back getting their, getting their thing going and everything like that. And I'm like, oh man, are they upset? Now I'm just like, yeah, whatever. Like, you gotta go take this lift. Like, you're mad at me. That's cool. We gotta go lift some weights. We'll figure that other part out later.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But yeah, I get that 100%. So updates, what you got going on, man? Any announcements? Anything you want to talk about before we get into today's topic?
Yeah, our app's live. So that's exciting, right?
Is
Yeah, the app is live, so people can go to thestrengthagenda.com. You go to the training section, that's where you're going to sign up for the app. If you find it inside of the app store and you try to go in and log in that way, it's not going to work. You got to actually go to the website, sign up, and then they'll send you a link for the app. You can download it. So that's great.
I've had a couple people message and like you sent me the information when I was making the post and stuff like that. Just want to reiterate to people that like right now we have the everyday nutrition, the everyday training, and a few of our specialty programs on there and stuff. None of our remote coaching is on there yet. We will have all that stuff updated and things like that. We just, John is a one-man show knocking this thing out. And I'm keeping the other things afloat. So we are adding it piece by piece. I appreciate the people that are gun ho and excited to jump on and stuff like that. We will have everything going eventually, but I just want people to
Yeah.
be a little bit patient, stuff like that. Right now, we just our everyday training programs took the priority. Wanted to make sure we had those up, and then we have a bunch of cool resources that we were not able to offer before. But I've been playing like on my downtime, I've been playing around with the app and stuff like that more and more. I like a lot of the stuff that's going in there. The max calculator, I literally just play around with it because I'm trying to find a bug. I'll be 100% honest, but that thing's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I have a video that I put together. I'm going to post either today or tomorrow talking about the rep calculator and stuff like that, just from my own perspective. Probably one of the more I think I texted these too, but it's probably one of the more like all around inclusive ones that I've seen. Like it covers your percentages, it covers like how to
Yeah.
what the color of the plates to put on the bar in both kilos and pounds. Like it's you knock that thing out of the park. Probably one of the better like rep calculators that I've seen put together and stuff like that. So kudos to you on that, my man.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, that one, and we talked about this like when I started putting it together, I had a version of it that I was like ready to put in, and then started thinking about what what's Rachel going to look at it, right? As a lifter on the team, what's she going to come to me and say, "Well, I need it in this, or I need this, or this." So it went from just a very kind of run of the mill rep max calculator into what it is now, which you can switch between kilos and pounds. You can switch between a men's bar and a women's bar weight, right?
Yep.
So you have that. When you switch between kilos and pounds, it'll automatically change all the colors of the plates that go onto the bar. And then it calculates out if you put in your 1 rep, it's going to tell you what your 2 rep should be, your 3 rep, your 4 rep max, your 5 rep, all the way down to like your 10. So it really, and I got to give a big shout out to like everybody on the team because I think you and I both really try to look at everything that we do through their eyes, right? Trying to figure out, well, what are they going to need?
Mhm.
And because they do sometimes too good of a job vocalizing what they want and what they need, it's helpful as we build these things out because then the things that we end up doing really are, geared towards kind of everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing because I've had a couple conversations, side talks with folks and stuff like that, and they're like, okay, well, what's different? Like everybody's got an app, everything's got whatever, and I
Mhm.
just said flat out, I was like, I can't speak for other apps. I really can't. I don't play with them. I'm not on
Yeah.
them. You and I've talked about this. Like I am very tunnel vision. Like I focus on mine and my own. Like I very rarely watch other weightlifters. Like I don't watch Worlds very often. I'll watch the
Mhm.
Olympics every, so often and stuff
Yep.
like that, but I don't watch Pan Am's, Worlds, all this stuff. Uh like I don't know people's PRs. Like I have very good close friends in the sport. Couldn't tell you what their PRs are. Like,
Mm.
but you ask me what my athletes do, and I could tell you, like I can drop,
Right.
everything from like they did this in this competition, they did this in this competition. And I think the thing that has made this process easier and is going to make it, more fluent and easier to digest for anybody that uses the app is you and I have taken like all of our experience and all the different groups of people that we worked in. Like you and I both worked in a variety of spaces, and we're constantly taking notes. We're constantly asking like, hey, like how can this be improved? Like through the check-ins and stuff like that. All my notes for my check-ins with the lifters when we're at meets and things like that, the bounds and notebooks. I got a bunch of them sitting over there. I just pulled out the other day because I needed to look up something for Vegas Worlds and stuff. Like we're taking all of that information and we're putting it into this app into a way that is just easier for those athletes to use and assimilate into their daily training to help them reach their goals. So I'm really pumped for this to continue to grow, and I hope everybody else is.
Yeah, and I want to say too, anytime you build something like this out, and I've done this process a few times now in my career, there's always going to be features and things that people want that at the current point in time, it's either technologically for the platform that we're building off of not feasible, or it's something that we're like, hey, we know we want to put this in. We're going to have to do it a little bit farther down the road, though. So for anybody that jumps in, we had somebody who reached out, right, that was like, hey, what about this and this? And one of those things, 100% was like, okay, we'll go in and we'll start working on that. I think that's doable. And then the other thing was, hey, look, that's going to have to be a down the road thing. But in the meantime, that Rep Max calculator exists for you, so you can do that. So yeah, anyway, the app being live. We have some new stuff that's going to be rolling out. So I do want to say for the one-on-one remote clients, athletes on the team, thank you for your patience in all of this. We had a game plan building out this app, and that was because Worlds was coming up. We
Yeah.
wanted to just get the everyday training stuff in for those folks, and then there's
This
a
is this is the busy time for the remote
yeah.
athletes. You got
Yeah. So once we get through Worlds, right, then the update to the app is going to be
yeah.
get everybody's stuff in. We think we've figured out an even better way for video submission and reviews to take place, which is really nice. So there's just some different stuff, and it'll just take a little bit. So thanks for
Yeah.
your patience, but it's coming. We haven't forgotten you.
100%. Speaking of business stuff, today's topic, you and I were talking about this. We talked about events the first couple episodes because the current events, things that are popping up, kind of a dead time,
Yeah.
in the event space and stuff like that. And especially for us too, like I just said we're getting into our busy time with the athletes and things like that. We've got Vegas coming up in about 4 weeks now, about 25, 30 days out from there. Our Illinois athletes will be starting mid-AMS prep next week,
Yeah.
getting ready for the mid-AMS at the end of October. And then our next big event would be all those going down to Daytona for either the Virus Finals or the UMWF Worlds, which is going to be a combined event down there, which is
You're gonna be just crazy. And let's not even get into that right now.
4 days. As of right now, the list I have sitting on my desk has 23 people.
Buddy.
Yep. That'll dwindle down as we get closer and stuff like that because it's always around Christmas time and people have struggles with that. But we were talking about business stuff, you and I, in particular, and then kind of what brought you and I together was just a lot of our similar philosophies and things like that. One of the things that you and I thought would be helpful to talk to folks about today in terms of like, because I get people that, I'm sure you do too. I know you do some consulting stuff on the side with different companies that are not like fitness related, but it's all similar at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
we're talking about marketing in terms of like you've had conversations with people, I've had conversations plus stuff that I've learned and things like that. And so let's just kind of go through I don't necessarily know if it's like a list per se, but let's just give some folks. So let's talk about marketing in terms of, your social
Yeah.
media presence, email marketing, lead funnels, SEO, all of that stuff. Because there were even things that you've taught me about marketing. Because I remember when you first came to me, you're like, I needed to redo the website. I'm like, yeah, I'm worried about losing all the SEO I've built up in, Google searches and things along those lines, from the original website. And you're just like, yeah, don't worry about that. Like, it'll be fine. Like, and you kind of explained to me that process. I figured we take some time, we talk about that today. So where do you want to start with on that?
Yeah, I think that, man, so first of all, right, we've kind of talked about backgrounds a little bit, and I
Yeah,
think one of the things that'll be, maybe a little helpful for people you know, as I speak from this side of things, this is this is, what I went to school for,
Right.
right? I hold an MBA. Uh, I have an MBA. So it's like one of those random things. You're like, I have an MBA. I don't know what I do with it, but I have one.
Right.
And I've worked in a lot of large corporations and organizations. I've worked in some smaller ones and startups and brand new. I've had the privilege and honor to, you know, be an executive that leads large departments that extend like 80 to 100 people, and then been part of smaller teams, both as everything from a chief marketing officer, CEO, the whole nine. Um, so when I'm talking about marketing, I had this. I've also had the privilege and honor of working with a mentor a long time ago in the business space who had done work with large brands like Coca-Cola and Yogi Tea and those kinds of things in terms of marketing and brand awareness and recognition. And he told me one day something that I'll never forget. He goes, "Nobody in a room full of leadership assumes that they know how to do finance's job. Nobody in a room full of leadership assumes they know how to do the operations side of things if they're not in operations, right? Uh, but everybody in the room seems to think that they know how to do marketing,
I like that. Yeah.
right? And it's because everybody thinks marketing's pretty pictures, clever words, and that's it. As long as you can do that, you're golden.
Right.
And one of the things that I see and have seen over my career, and it's become a thing, is this idea and this concept that eh, marketing is you basically just need social media.
Yeah.
If you have a social media account, you can build your business off of social media. And while social media can 100% have an impact on the overall health and your reach, it is not the be all end all to your marketing campaign. So let's talk about what like marketing is and is not. And I think that's probably a good place to start. So
Yeah.
marketing is actually data driven.
Hmm.
It starts from like the very initial point in when you have a concept, right? You've got this idea of, hey, let's say we're going to do a company product launch.
Like an
With
app, crazy.
Yeah, crazy, right? Like an app. The research that goes into, okay, well, is this a viable option? Does this make sense? Well, how do you figure that out? You don't just look at social media and say, well, these 10 people have like 1 million followers and they have their own app and they must be doing well.
Right.
Maybe, but they probably bought 900,000 of those followers
Right.
and they're bots. You can always tell by looking at the engagement on somebody's posts, right? And you're like, how do you have 1 million followers, but every time you post something, you get 200 likes, right? So you got to look at will the market support it, right? You got to look at what actually, your demographic is that you're going to go after.
Mhm.
Do they have all the necessary traits, everything from, interests outside of or adjacent to whatever it is that you're trying to push? What part of the country should you even be marketing to? If you've got a physical location and you've set up, you're like, I think I'm going to put this here because it looks cost effective. Well, have you looked at the 5 mile radius around you to see how many other businesses exist there? What the financial status is of the people that are around you? How many people exist around you? What's the traffic like coming through? I mean, that's all just the basics
Right.
to just deciding, yeah, okay, hey, let's explore this farther. And then from there, it's very dependent on what you're doing. So if you're doing a digital product like an app, right, then
Hmm.
probably the number one thing that you've got to decide on next is what are you gonna, what's your URL gonna look like?
Right.
For those of you that don't know what your URL is, that's your website address, right? And then you got to decide what your brand is going to look like, but also like what's your mission statement? What's your vision statement? Like who are you going to target And that's going to lead into what kind of imagery you're going to use, what kind of copy you're going to use. And that all goes into the idea of like, what's your website? And I think this is where one of my largest pet peeves comes in, and I'll be honest, is the idea of I'm going to set up this beautiful Instagram page
Yep.
or this killer TikTok page. And then I don't give two shits what my website looks like because all my business is going to come from there. Well,
Yep.
all those people have to go to your website to make that purchase 90% of the time. They're going to go
Yeah.
to some landing page or something else. And if your website is just garbage,
Gotcha.
right? It's the equivalent of walking through a shopping center and there's this spot that has all this stuff that you saw on Instagram that you were like, man, we have got to go check that out. And then you walk up to the front, and the front is just this destroyed mess of
Yeah.
things that don't make any sense. Like everything's just kind of haphazardly tossed into the windows. You look inside and it just looks gross. It doesn't seem to make sense, right? It's not really that attractive. Your interest in going into that store is now gone,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So there's that. So the website's important. And then you've got to upkeep your website. Like that involves because SEO is critical.
Yeah.
Google cares.
Yeah.
Like Google, it matters. So what you put in there, is it keyword optimized? Is it, are the images tagged appropriately? Are the blogs that you're writing like tagged appropriately? Do you have the right URLs for these things? There's a certain length to the URL that you want to look at. There's a whole lot that goes into that to make Google go, oh, I like your website,
Yep.
especially if it's not mobile optimized or not. Right? If
Yeah.
it's not optimized for mobile and Google's
I feel like in this day and age, like that needs to be a thing. I do not understand a single business, brand, company, whatever title you want to give yourself or whatever, that does not have a website, a mobile friendly website.
yeah.
I know that was one of the things you and I discussed was not the last one, but the one before that. There were certain aspects of the website that just didn't click, no
Right.
pun intended, in terms of like being a mobile friendly, like you could figure things out, but like it took a few extra brain cells to get
Mhm.
where you were trying to go versus like that was one of the things that you had like stressed to me when you were putting together our the second to last website was just like, okay, like this is all great, these are all good information pieces and stuff like that, but it's gotta work mobile. Everybody's got one of these in their hands these days. Like it's unavoidable. Everybody's got one. You've got to figure out how to get people to use it for what you want them to use it
Yeah.
for. And having a mobile friendly website is a huge piece of that these days. And I understand it's like a whole, like, I don't want to, for whatever reason, if you don't want to do it, like tough, suck it up, do it, because it could make, a 10% difference in sales, in clicks, in views, in traffic overall. And that's better than what you were doing before.
Yeah, I think one of the important things to understand about mobile is, when you look at the data behind it these days, on average, 77%, right? And this is the data that I have personally pulled on the websites
Yeah.
that I have built and the companies that I've worked in. 77% is the average of people interacting with your website via mobile. Then there's a segment that obviously is through a desktop, and then there's even people who are accessing it through like a tablet,
Right.
right? But 77% of your clients are coming through their phone to look at your website. And if they
Yeah.
can't comfortably navigate that through their
Yep.
phone, then you failed,
100%.
right? And then, you go a step past that and you talk about, you mentioned a little bit ago, like lead capture and lead generation.
Yeah.
So now that then goes from let's talk about if you're starting with Instagram, well, where are you going to send those people to capture the leads? I mean, there's things now like ManyChat that, make it easier to get people a link or something to go to, right? Because now you can plug in this automation that's like, hey, reply to this and I'll send you in your
Yeah.
DMs this link. Well, that's great, but where's the link go? Are you taking them straight to a purchase page? Because that's like that's scooting right past the second date and going to marriage, right? You're not like that's not happening. Um, so you've got to not only do you have to have your website set up, but then you've got to have where are you sending them? And that's a landing page that exists outside of your normal navigation for the website
Right.
so that you're interacting with somebody and it's essentially it's that second date, right?
Yeah.
They're getting a little bit of information and then you got to give a little, right? So there has to be that hook of what am I going to give you for free to convince you to give me your email address so then we can continue to have these wonderful phone conversations where we
Right.
talk for hours on end every night and then eventually I get to, propose something new. Um, which means you got to have your email system set up.
Yeah, exactly.
And email is so important and again so underutilized because everybody seems to think Instagram and TikTok are the answer to all their prayers. And here's the reality. And this is let me finish about email. So email is critical because that's how we continue to have those conversations,
Okay.
right? That's how I continue to educate you about who we are and what we can do for you because we've done it for other people. And
Exactly.
it's not a constant sales pitch. It's a let's get to know each other. Let's remind each other of why you showed interest in the first place because we're establishing ourselves as an authority. And the email shouldn't end with them opening and closing the email. The goal is to get them to go through the email, engage with content, and then click on something that then takes them back to the website to interact again with the website. It
Yeah.
usually takes on average 7 to 10 touches online with a customer before they're going to pull that trigger. Right.
Right.
So that means they're not going to interact with you 7 to 10 times on Instagram and then suddenly decide to buy,
Yeah.
right? They got to go through that whole process. So you've got email and then that continues on past that and you've got to have the ability to deliver a product successfully. So and then of course the branding, right? What does your branding look like? What's your message look like? What do your images look like? All of that does play a part in this. But you have to be able to then look at the back end of a website too, and all your email and say, well, where's the most opens coming from? Where are the people engaging with us the most? Um, I've built campaigns that had multiple landing pages where the imagery was essentially similar,
Yeah.
but the verbiage and how we talk to people was different because one landing page was geared towards people in Boston. One landing page is geared towards people in San Diego. Those two communities do not talk the same.
No, not at all.
They're valid, like we're all one nation and everybody says that, but you look at all these different cities and everybody speaks to each other differently. Everybody reacts to each other differently. And you have to know through proper research, like how do you talk to somebody in Boston? How do you talk to somebody in San Diego? So there's a ton of research that goes into this as well. And if you fail at those things and you just assume everybody is generically the same, then that's problematic. The other thing too that I see is a big mistake in marketing is when people sell to themselves.
Mhm.
When all of their content and everything else makes this assumption that, well, this is what I like. This is what I built this on because I like this. So if
Right.
I just sell to me because this is what I like and I just keep pumping out what I like, I'm going to find everybody else that's like me.
Yep.
You're like, no, because that doesn't work. Like if because you might be a small little percentage.
Exactly.
And if you're talking to everybody in language that you understand that they don't, then you end up talking to everybody like you. And especially in the fitness industry, that where that becomes problematic is all those people that you're talking to that understand your language, I'd say 90% of them have a competing fitness business online.
Right. Right. Right.
So you're trying to convince somebody who's trying to build their own business, come over here and join my thing, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to talking to the population of human beings out there that are genuinely trying to do something different in their lives.
And it's funny you mentioned that part because for those that aren't familiar with Dave Tate, he is the founder, owner of Elite FTS. I think you and I talked about this because when I started doing social media, when I started the website and stuff like that, like first and foremost, I want to tell people flat out. Um, Having a ton of followers is great and all, but it's continuing to keep up that engagement. And I know one of the things I've talked to you ad nauseum about, I hate social media. But it is like a full-time job on top of everything else that we do. Like I spend
Hmm.
more damn time, like I mean now I've got it to a process that it's more efficient. Jess has been a huge part of that. She put together that content calendar that we use and stuff like that. But like I spend easily anywhere from like 2 to 2.5, almost 3 hours sometimes putting together all the content for the week. And that's just a single post. That doesn't factor in stories, Facebook stuff, anything along
Hmm.
those lines. That is just the Instagram stuff. And then from there, I can dive into other stuff and kind of extrapolate out from there and things like that. But if you're going to do social media, um, it is a full-time job for your business. I want people to make sure that they understand that because you and I've talked about that. We've had conversations with other folks who think just throwing content out there is going to, bring in the buys and the clicks and the views
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And that's not necessarily the case. Like one of the biggest things I've had to understand is like mapping out. Like I used to literally post on a day by day basis. And so like being able to map out the week saying like, hey, this is what we're going to focus on this week. This is what we got coming up, holidays, things along those lines, like planning around all that with different events coming up, like our athletes going to Worlds and pushing the ebook around like the Chicago Highland Games, which is a really big Highland Games in that area and stuff.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of Chicago-based followers and stuff like that. Doing all these things um, takes time, takes effort, and it takes you paying attention. The other thing too is formatting. Something that I started, I think we're going on about 2, 3 years ago, is Lacey helped me do this. She pretty much cleaned up all the social media. Like we were doing well follower-wise. Like we were in like the 10K range or anything like
Yeah.
that. And then I just kind of got this idea of like formatting. So, like, there is a format that each post is made with a border, a graphic, and then she's got like a cover thing and she kind of lines it all up. And I know since I started doing that, you've shown the page to other people, being like, this
100%.
nice, clean presentation. And that was something that I had just picked up randomly and it's helped in terms of our followers, our engagement and stuff like that. Like engagement is much higher on posts nowadays and stuff like that in terms of the likes and the views and the traffic and stuff. And that has helped with the app launch because you can, if you get all those followers, you get all those likes, you get all those views, you need somewhere for them to go. And we've been able to kind of turn that into a fully functioning machine. But to my original point, Dave Tate from Elite FTS put out a really good thing when he was, I can't remember if it was on his podcast or an article or something like that. And he was asked about the language that he uses when he is talking, when he is making posts,
Hmm.
doing all that stuff. And for those who don't know, he's got an autistic son that he adopted. And Dave Tate, accomplished power lifter, was like with the West Side Crew, Lead FTS, big strength training platform and stuff like that. They have thousands of articles, hundreds of like editors and contributors and things along those lines. But one of the things that he emphasizes when they are pushing out content, when they are talking about things, when they are making posts, is he says flat out, I want you to talk about whatever your subject matter is, like you're talking to my son, who has no clue what any of this stuff is, and nor does he really actually care. Like, you've got to get his interest. And once I heard that, it completely shifted how I put out content, how I talk about stuff. I try to give, as much detail as possible, but I'm not trying to wow you with
Yeah.
words. I'm not trying to like kill you with phrases and stuff like that. And that's one of the things you and I clicked on right away is because like you also write and put out information in a way that is easily digestible for anybody that may not understand what a snatch is, what a squat is, what a push-up is. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And that's the thing I think people need to understand too, is just like it's easy to talk to people that are already in our sphere. Like that's not hard. And if it is hard, like you're in the wrong space. But what in my opinion is harder is being able to relate to those people that you're trying to draw in.
Yeah.
So talk to those folks in real life. How do you engage with those individuals? How do you, get them to be interested in whatever it is you're trying to sell? And that's how a majority of your content that you're pushing out, whether it's articles, whether it's emails, ClickFunnels, social media posts, Instagram stories, all of those things put it out in that language because like you said, varying groups, varying parts of the country, varying, different aspects of the field are going to disseminate that information in a different way. And you've got to figure out a common ground to be able to reach all of those groups, to draw them in, to get them to eventually buy what it is you're selling.
Yeah, and that's I love that you brought up tape because that concept of explain it to everybody like you're explaining it to my autistic son,
Yeah.
right? One of the greatest practices that I ever undertook early on in my career was like reading things to my dog.
Yeah.
Because if I could read to my dog and do it in a way that captured his attention, right? And it doesn't need to be the content, it just needs to be the timber pitch, everything else, like how engage. And this is when I was trying to really dial in my sales ability.
Yeah.
And that lesson taught me a lot about writing, right? Because if if you've got to talk to a human being in a way that's going to keep them engaged, right? You're like, hey, look, little buddy, we're going to do this and it's going to be amazing. Are you trying to get up? Sorry, speaking of dogs, I have a
Yeah.
dog trying to get up on a seat. Go ahead, man. Do your thing. Um, but yeah, so anyway, like you should write that way too, right?
Yeah.
It should be something that anybody that hits your page can understand. And if it's overly complex, if it's overly technical,
Yeah.
I've had arguments with people in some of the companies that I've been at, and an argument is pretty harsh. Like we've had some disagreements about what needs to go into a website.
Stations.
Yeah. And they were very adamant. Like I've had scientists that, the guys who formulated the products, they're like, well, everybody needs to know X, Y, and Z. I go, nobody needs to know that.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. The only person that cares is you. I said, but if you go and talk to a group of 30 people that are looking for a sleep product and you try to use all of that technical jargon, like nobody in the room gives a shit. But if I walk into the room and I'm like, hey, raise your hand if you can't sleep.
Yeah.
And everybody raises their hand, like, okay, great. Raise your hand if you tried a bunch of different ways that to help you sleep, but they've left you groggy in the morning and you don't really like it. And they all raise their hand again. Okay, I have something that could help. Who'd be
Right.
interested?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, all those hands are up again, right? I haven't told them anything about anything. I'm like, great, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you guys a free 5-day sample. At the end of the 5 days, you're just going to tell me how much better you slept. I promise you it's going to be so much better than you've ever had before. Who wants that sample? Everybody's hands are still going to be in the air. Fantastic. Here you go. You know what I didn't tell them? All the ingredients.
Right.
If one person in the room comes up and is like, hey, what's in this? Then sure. Yeah, we're going
Yeah.
to talk about that. And there's going to be an ingredient list somewhere, right? But it's the same thing with like strength programming,
Yep.
right? Hey, who here wants to know everything there is to know about the conjugate method of training,
Right.
right? The everyday person is like, I don't know what that means. Like the
Yeah.
coaches in the room would be, yeah, dude, tell me, because I want to know all the things. But the person off the street that's
Yeah.
trying to be fitter, be happier, lose
Strong.
weight, get stronger, whatever it is, they don't care.
Yeah.
But if you say, hey, who here would like to physically be able to move more weight and to see their abs?
Yeah.
Now you've got a bunch of hands up, right? And so, yeah, absolutely, you got to do it that way. And the other thing too is I think a lot of people in social media try to cram too much information into their posts. So they're overloading. Like we've all seen those posts that go on forever.
Yeah.
And you're like, that I don't need to read all this. The thing that I want to point out too, and I'm glad you brought up that social media is essentially a full-time job.
Yeah.
In a full organization, under marketing, it's not a guy. You have experts in social media, you have a website guy, you've got an email person, you've got a copywriter, you've got a data analytics person, and you've got the person who goes out and collects all of your media. So photography, videos, all of that, and then goes through and edits all that. All of those in a small organization, right? And by small, I mean bigger than what we are, but smaller than like a Nike, right? Those people all exist. because each one of those people have developed the skill set and gone to school to be able to do that and have it have the greatest impact. The, one of the craziest things that I've heard is a small startup company is like, well, Nike does it this way. I'm like, you're not Nike. And if you were, you would have way more people than I just told you about.
Exactly.
Right. Now I'm not saying like, hey guys, all of this is going to be impossible for you. It's not. There are ways that you can do it as a solo entrepreneur, as an individual, as a small like two-person, three-person, four-person team.
Almost
But
like you're reading my mind.
yeah, but it's the thing about it is you got to understand that it is work. And I think that people, when it comes to marketing, don't understand the sheer volume of work that it's going to take
Oh,
to be able to make these things happen. And one of the other things like we haven't even talked about, and I've heard so many people bag on this, and I want to make sure that we're real clear. Ads. If you want to grow your business, there is a point in time where you have to start investing in doing ads. And if
mhm.
you want to reach the largest audience with the greatest impact, potential impact on your return on investment,
Yes.
it is not social media ads,
No.
Google ads. So there's a difference between social media and between Google, right? Social media ads, like people see those based on interest. So if I like strength training, then odds are I'm going to see if Strength Agenda runs an ad or boosts a post, that's going to come across my stuff. And the idea is there that, oh, I'm interested in it. I could click on it, right? Or I could leave it be. It doesn't really matter. Or I click on it and I give them a follow and then I don't think about it again, right? And you're fighting an algorithm that's showing that to tons of people. With
Yep.
Google Ads, it's intent, which means I'm actively searching for strength training online through Google and looking at the results because that's something that I'm genuinely interested in pursuing and I'm ready to start thinking about committing financial resources towards.
Exactly.
So the guys I hear out there that give the marketing advice of you don't need ads or you just need to do this or you just need to do that. It's like, man, you have no idea the impact that that has on your business, especially if your website traffic, if you're new and you got to get people like to your business, you have to invest in it. And then the last thing that I'm going to mention before I give you some space to speak, man, is um, I want to talk a little bit about like when you're launching a new program as a company or a new product. This is something that I think I see more prominently in the fitness space and especially in CrossFit
Yeah.
and small gym owners. So small gym owners, like if you're listening to this conversation, you're like, well, I don't know if this really applies to me. I guarantee you it does. I haven't talked to a single small gym owner that does all the things we just talked about.
No, no. And
They might,
I wasn't even doing all of these things.
right. And so when it comes to, and so small gym owners and CrossFit gym owners, they tend to try to squeeze as much blood from a stone as they can, and that stone being their own members. So they cannibalize their own members for new programs. They cannibalize their own members for as much revenue as they possibly can. But when you're talking about somebody who's paying over $200 a month for a gym membership, right? Not everybody has that level of disposable income. And so if you want to launch a new product or a new program offering or something like that, the goal shouldn't be to get as many of your own internal people to sign up as possible. It should be to reach as many people out in your community as possible. And you can't do that in a week. The number of gym owners and even outside of gym owners who say, hey, we got this idea and we're going to launch next week. Okay, what do you expect to have happen with that? Because You're just gonna put up an Instagram post about it and you think everybody's gonna just automatically buy it? Because that's not what's gonna happen. Again, 7 to 10 touches before somebody actually commits the finances towards making that purchase.
Yeah.
So you need to have, and we have created a 60 and a 90-day product and program launch system, right? That's based on like all the years and all the people that I have had the pleasure of working under, and then the work that I've done myself, and then the conversations and the work that we've done. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, like you guys, you got to quit thinking that you can just throw something up and you're gonna get this big hit. Like a couple of years ago, a few years ago, the big one was, hey, it's our 8 week challenge,
I was to say those new you challenges and all that stuff. Like, yeah.
right? If you set yourself up the right way as an organization and you're doing all the right things, like you don't have to do those things. They're a quick cash bump,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they're not going to result in the long-term impact that you really need to have to grow your business to the next level.
And the other thing I want to add on to that too is if you don't have the infrastructure in place to maintain those bumps, uh,
Yeah.
you're just gonna have to you're gonna
Time.
going back to like the whole like getting as much blood out of a stone as you can. Like that was the one thing is like I know people who like relied on those new U's. They would run them. And for those who don't know, this new U program, correct me if I'm wrong, it was like a 30-day program where it had like an interview process. You came in, you paid a certain amount of money for it, and it was this whole like nutrition training. Like it was kind of people were using it as to build memberships at CrossFits essentially.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the program, he kind of sales pitched him and was like, "Hey, like, did you like the program? Do you want to join our gym?" And it would just be one of those situations where the whole process was you'd cast a wide net, you'd get maybe like 100 people to sign up, right? And then the goal was like by the end of the 100 people, you get like half of them to sign up, and then like try to keep anywhere from like 40 to 50% of those people long term kind of a situation. And it reminded me of like back in the day before CrossFit was really a thing of like the Groupon fitness
Hmm.
when companies would use like Groupon to get more members in the door and stuff like that. It was just a bunch of tire kickers essentially. But like if you don't have the infrastructure in place, if you don't have the things, the staying power that you lacked in the first place, because otherwise you would have had those members in your area and such like that. It's not going to go as well as you think it's going to go. And in long term, you're going to have to keep going back and doing those little bumps here and there to try to jump everything or jumpstart everything. And it's not a successful it's not a successful and it's not easy to maintain something like
Yeah.
that. You're going to burn out and you're going to run through those resources really quick because when we're talking about lead generation, you can only generate so many leads in an area before you kind of tap that well dry. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of things that people need to understand there with those kinds of strategies and plans too. Like, yes, if you can get that big bump, awesome. But what are you going to do to maintain and keep that bump once you get it?
And you bring up something I think is important. So there's a lot of organizations out there that pitched those to gym owners. They're like, "Hey, I can help you generate, 100 new members,"
Oh,
and
I still get emails about it all the
yeah,
time.
and one in particular, I won't name the company that struck me was, they would say, "Hey, we can guarantee you we're going to increase your revenue by X amount of dollars by the end of the year, or we refund everything." And people were like, "Great, like you're going to help us do that. That's fantastic." And they're like, "Absolutely. However, in order to get there, you have to commit to doing the following things." And it was somewhere in the neighborhood of spending $3,000 a month on Google Ads, right? And doing all these other things. And when you wound up, like when I went through and I looked at everything that they were talking about and I ran it out to the end of the year to generate an additional $100,000 in revenue that year, which was kind of their tease was like, "Hey, you're going to spend this." You wound up spending 20 to 30,000 dollars more than you were going to bring in by the end of the year, because you not only were spending on the Google ads, but you had to pay them something like $5,000 a month to do all this and the whole nine. And it was like you were going to lose in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 grand but they were going to point out, hey, you made $100,000. We told you what you were going to make, right? And so you had to do this. And so, and that's the kind of, there's a bunch of, man, there's a lot of swings and misses out there, I think, in the business coaching world. And, you know, and this is kind of the impetus for one of the things that we've been working on
Right.
because, you know, I think both of us are in that mindset of like, we have a lot of friends who still have these gyms.
We
And
get, I mean, you and I talk about it all the time. We're constantly getting asked, like,
yeah,
hey, give me some pointers here. Can you give me some
yeah,
pointers?
give us some pointers here. And I've talked to people who have already spent in the neighborhood of $60,000 going through three different gym mentorship programs, and you know their dissatisfaction level is so high. And when we talk about some of the things around that, one of the things that they bring up is like, first of all, there is no sales and marketing training that exists. It's in a lot of cases, it's a lot of the same stuff you hear from like CrossFit HQ, which is just keep your gym clean and provide great coaching, and people will show up and they'll stay.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's talk about this really quick because I brought this up. I am doing sales training with a gym.
Hmm.
So, using the sales training that we built out. So I'm taking them through it. And one of the things that on day one we talk about in that sales training is what are your selling points that you tell people about the gym,
Right.
right? And they're like, oh, community and coaching and the workout and the programming. And I'm like, great. What do you think every other CrossFit gym's website tells people their differentiating factor is and why you should join? Community,
Hmm.
coaching, programming, great workouts, right? Every single one. If I can go through 100 different websites, then when they talk about why you should join, it's the coaches, it's how great their community is, it's how CrossFit's going to change their life, and that's it. Guys, if everybody's saying the same thing, then how are you different? Like that's the tough question. How are you genuinely different? And the other thing to remember is that if you're going through one of these mentorship programs and they're saying, "Well, everybody does it this way and we don't understand why you're not getting the numbers that everybody else does." Everybody else is in a different part of the country with a different demographic, with a different disposable income level, with a different population status, with you know what I mean? And to be able to say, well, this gym out in LA has been generating 40 new leads every single day and they're closing 20 all the time and they've got so many members, they're turning them away and they're charging $300 a month and nobody bats an eye.
Yeah.
That's because it's LA. It's the second largest city in the United States.
Right.
It's all about like style, not about circumstance. It's about how you look.
Right.
And it costs $5,000 a month to have a studio apartment. So
Yeah.
most people have a disposable income level that they're spending on different things, right? If you're in the middle of Iowa and you try to charge $300 a month, and you think you're going to get 40 new leads a day and you're going to be turning people back left and right because the LA gym did it and you just have to do it the same way the LA gym did, you are being horribly misled.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, and so with that, we've had a lot of conversations because we've had people reach out and say, well, what kind of tips do you have? What, you know, anything you can help us with, like the direction we need to go. And as a result, we kind of decided, hey, as we're building out the app and everything else, what can we do to help our friends in that side of the world?
Exactly.
So we've we've started putting together, everything's written for it. It's going through like the process of being put into manuals and then some different stuff. So we're gonna have a gym coaching consulting side of things
Yeah.
where we're going to have things that really we believe are extremely valuable
Yeah.
and worth, being able to use over and over and over again. Because a lot of times you go through these like new you program pitches and everything else, and it's not sustainable. What
There's
we're
no
putting
education, there's no education aspect to
Right.
it.
There's no education aspect. So what we're putting together provides valuable education and reusable resources that are based on not the gym industry. They're based on business as a whole. That no matter which industry you go into, no matter where you're going, if you're in a service-based industry, these items are going to help you.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to know them. So, the number of folks I know that don't have a business plan and don't redo their business plan annually to adjust for wherever their finances are, that don't have a financial understanding of how much they're investing on a regular basis, what they're spending, and whether or not they're in the red or the black, and
Yeah.
how to get out and where that needs to be, how to run ads, how to set up ads, how to do all of that, the marketing, the sales, all of it. So we're building a founders package that is going to be available in October for everybody. So we're pretty excited to bring that to everyone. And then we are doing, we're going to start doing some calls where we get together with people and find out about, what's your business? Tell us about your specific business and what you need. And we're not going to give you the generic answer of, well, this is what everybody else does.
Right.
There are
Exactly.
certain things everybody should do, but then you have to understand where you're at and what your business looks like.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing that's gonna help with this little like sidearm of what we've been doing and stuff like that is it's taking everything that we know and just sharing our experiences and being able to kind of like walk folks through it. It's not just, hey, here's a bunch of, excuse me, here's a bunch of modules, do these, you're gonna have success. Trust me. It's just
Right.
like, going through it and talking and stuff like that. But in the meantime, but while folks are waiting for that and stuff like that, let's just give people like, let's wrap this up in a neat little here. Give people like three things that they can be doing right now in terms of better marketing, whatever it is, whether it's their social media platform, whatever they're trying to sell and get people more engaged in. Just give them three things that they could start doing right now that would help them get on the road to, just a little bit more success in that realm.
Yeah, that's a great thing. So I think the very, very, very first thing is identify what makes you special as a business.
Exactly.
Sit down and brainstorm with everybody else and don't settle on the easy things. Don't settle on if you're a CrossFit gym or a micro gym, please,
Yeah.
for the love of God, it's not community, it's not coaching, and it's not your programming. Like dig deep and find out what really sets you apart and then integrate that into your messaging across all platforms.
Yeah.
Um, the next thing is let's talk about social because I want to bring up the Strength Agenda social because I do use it often with the clients that I do consulting with as a great example of this is what a clean social media looks like.
Right.
And so take a look at the Strength Agenda social media platform and clean yours up.
Yeah.
If it's random, then build a plan, make it less random. If it's just every day you're posting workouts, understand that that is stale.
Yes.
And once you've identified what makes you different and what your messaging should look like, then build your calendar out around those things,
Yep.
right? Everybody still wants to see like people working out, yes, 100%. But what else makes you special? And then talk about that in social and really start to reach out, right? And then the last thing, and this is the one, man, that like I think people miss, I guess two things. I'm going to say two things. One, look at your website, pay attention to your website. And if you have somebody build it, once it's done being built, it's not done. You
Yeah.
have to write articles and post articles on your website to help with your SEO and to send people to, because you should be sending people from everywhere back to your website to engage with your brand.
Yeah.
If you're just relying on social media to get somebody to sign up, you are going to fail.
Yeah.
End of story. And then the very last thing is use your email for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, that's where you get to be a little bit more personal. You get to have a little bit longer conversation. You get to introduce multiple topics. You get to do all of that, and people engage with your email and they're not scrolling through Instagram. They're not scrolling through TikTok and looking at the next thing. They're reading your email and then they're finding what's important that they connect with, and then they're clicking through and going back to your website. So those would be the things, right?
Yeah.
One, identify what makes you special as a business. Two, clean up your social media, right? Three, like update your website with blogs and information about your business. And then
Yeah.
four, use your email weekly to
Yeah.
talk to not only your members, but everybody that has ever requested information.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like if you can start doing those four things, you will see an improvement in your business. If you do two of those things, eh, right? If you're not doing any of those things and you're just kind of, throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, well,
That's
you're
the issue.
probably that CrossFit gym that, pitched a fit when they raised affiliate prices because an extra $1,000 a year was going to put you out of business. And I got news for you. If an extra $1,000 a year is putting you out of business, your business is not healthy.
Yeah, right, right. And I just want to reiterate too that we are not like ragging on CrossFit as a model just because it's CrossFit.
Mm-mm.
We are just that is for we just call it what it is. Like that model has taken over the fitness space.
Yeah.
Like all these things that have stemmed off, like Orange Theory, High Rocks, Red Room, all these different like brands that have stemmed, like they are ripping off of the CrossFit model in its infancy. And so it's just one of those situations where we're just using what is the most abundant in this space. Who are the people that we are talking to, whether it's weightlifting coaches that are operating out of CrossFits or they're running a CrossFit alongside their weightlifting business, like
Yeah.
I first started. So I just don't want people to sit there and be like, oh, these guys are bashing this and that. No, we're just speaking on what is the most prevalent in the space and who are the folks that are asking us the most questions on stuff like this that we're getting.
Yeah. And I think it's important to that point, right? Like I enjoy CrossFit. Like I still do it. I
Yeah.
do accessory work because I'm 52 and my shoulders and needs need accessory work and there's stuff that, I got to do outside of it to get that. But my biggest issue and why we talk about it from the standpoint of CrossFit is that there's no true business coaching that goes into it. We saw everybody was like in the early days, and this happened for both of us. You got an L1, you found a spot, you bought some equipment, you threw some stall mats down, and boom, you were off to the races. And the problem was you had a
Then,
bunch, huh?
then what?
Yeah, then what? Then everybody's like, I don't know, I don't understand. Like, what do I do next? How come like nobody's signing up? Why aren't we growing? Why are we only growing by one or two people? I can't afford this. Now I'm, working three jobs and doing this as well and burning out. And,
Yeah.
CrossFit used to have 13,000 affiliates worldwide. And I know that from the HQ standpoint, they made some moves that people didn't necessarily agree with. But I want to throw this out there. Like raising the affiliate fee is a necessary move for an organization that hasn't really like done anything major in a long time to be able to generate the revenue to stay afloat and to continue to do what it does. And then the other thing about it is that they provide a methodology,
Yeah.
right? That has been great for a lot of people, but what they've never provided, and they made no bones about it, was they never provided the business coaching aspect. And
Yeah.
that's the difference between you mentioned Orange Theory, right? Um, like you get a ton of marketing stuff from a franchise, you get a bunch of, you know, materials, packets, everything else, brand awareness, all that jazz. You didn't get that through CrossFit, and that's what's causing a lot of these businesses to tank is they just never bothered to invest in the right way in understanding those things.
Yeah.
So,
But with that being said, we kind of got a little long-winded there, but it was all information that was necessary for folks. We're
yeah.
gonna go wrap this up. If you guys have any questions, feel free to message either of us on our personal social medias. The Strength Agenda one, I get a lot of questions on there that I see. Even if you're not like a follower or anything like that, I still see the messages. I share them with John every time I get them. So please continue to ask those questions. You guys are awesome with that. If you have already subscribed to the app, thank you. If you are looking at doing so, go to our website, www.thestrengthagenda.com. Go under training. That's where you will find the new app. Sign up on there. Grab some merchandise while you are there. John's got the shirt on. I have a hat. It's turned around. I'm not turning it around because my hair looks like a mess. And just as always, we really appreciate your guys' support. It means a lot to us. Appreciate you guys clicking and subscribing to this. Share any of the episodes that you find helpful information. And if there's any questions that you guys have, we will do one on the next episode. We'll collect a bunch of questions. I've got a few here that we'll want to use, and we'll kind of answer those on the next one. So any questions you have, please ask away. John, anything you want to add?
No, I think maybe the next episode should just be dedicated to like questions. We
Oh,
just spend like 15 minutes answering questions from people. So yeah, ask questions. I will answer one that I got inside the gym, which was who is your favorite athlete and why is it me? So I'll answer that one for that person in the next episode.
so selfish. All right. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you later.
Bye guys.